Hi Year 4, welcome to Thursday's maths lesson. Today our LO is I can compare amounts of money. Our learning verb there being compare, which means we're going to be looking at two or more amounts of money to decide which one is bigger, which one is smaller, and seeing in what order they might go. Before we do that, I just want to again recap on some things that we've talked about. So let's have a look here. There's a sentence with some spaces. Can you fill the words pounds, parts, whole, and pence into those four empty spaces? The sentence reads, we write a decimal point between the and the. This separates the and the. So thinking about what we know about money, maybe using 100 square there, we write a decimal point between the whole and the parts. This separates the pounds and the pence. The sentence could actually be the other way around as well. We write a decimal point between the pound and the pence. This separates the whole and the parts. Still saying the same thing, isn't it? Still recapping, let's think here. Let's look at what the question's asking us. Erin has 10p more than Zach. So which purse is which? So we need to look at the amount of money and we need to decide whose purse is whose. So if I look here, I'm going to take out the pounds first. So I've got £1, £2, and then I've got 20 and 20 and a 10. So altogether here I've got £2, 50 pence. And down here I've got £1 again, another pound, a 20p piece and 2 tens. So altogether here I've got £2 and 40 pence. Okay, so if I've got £2.40 here, I've got £2.50 here. I know Erin has 10p more than Zach, so this purse here must be Erin's. Okay. Now converting that between pounds and pence, just remind yourself, so if I've got £2.50 for Erin, how many p are there? And Zach has £2.40, how many p would that be? Okay, so remembering that what I need to do is times by 100 to convert between pounds and pence. So Erin has £2.50, which means I need to move the number how many decimal places and in which direction. It's going to be to the left, isn't it? Remember, we're making the number bigger. We want to know how many parts there are. So 2 decimal places, because we're timesing by 100, and the number becomes 250. Okay, so just recapping on what we've done in the last few days there. Erin has £2.50, which is equivalent to 250p. The digits have moved 2 places to the left on the place value grid because we have timesed by 100. Okay, so just going over those things. Now let's have a look here. So for today, for comparing, it's really important that we know what place value position or what digit is worth what. Okay, so if I have £6.82, it's important that I know that this £6 is in my ones column, the 80p is in my tenths column, and the 2 is in my hundredths column. It's important to know that so that when I'm comparing between two different amounts of money, I can make sure I look at the right column first to decide which one's bigger than the other. Okay. Okay, so if we're having a look here, we're looking at comparing our amounts of money. So this is where knowing our place value positions is important, because if I know that I have this amount of money and this amount of money, I need to know what I want to think about to find out which is bigger. Okay, so if I have a look here, I've got 1 whole, 1/10, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hundredths. Okay, so how much money is that? If I've got 1 whole, 1/10, and 6 hundredths, how much money do I have altogether? And then over here, I've got 1 whole, 1/10 and 3/100. Okay, so how much money is that representing? Okay, so on the left here, I've got £1 and 16p. And on the left, on the right here, I've got £1 and 23p. Now, how does this help me compare the two? So how do I decide which symbol I'm going to put in between these two? Well, first I'm going to look in the ones column. Now, in this circumstance, both of the ones columns is the same. Obviously, if one of them was more than 1, then that one would be the bigger one, because if I've got more than £1 whole, then it doesn't really matter what the other columns show, because that would be bigger, wouldn't it? But in this circumstance, they're both 1. So I can't use the ones column. So next I'm going to look at the tenths column. Okay, so this one has 1 in it, and this one has 2 in it. Now, remembering that in our tenths column, if we've got 1 here and 2 here, this means that this one has 1 10p piece, whereas this one has 2 10p pieces, or a 20p piece. That means this one is bigger than this one. Now, if I keep looking, I could see there's 6 hundredths here and there's 3 hundredths here, but that doesn't actually matter because this one has more in the tenths column. This one is always going to be bigger. Okay, so £1.23 is more than £1 and 16p. So remember, starting in the ones column and then working your way if you need to. Okay, so again, we've got 2 amounts of money here. Which one is bigger? Well, I can use my place value chart now. So if I fill in my place value chart, I'm going to need to do this. If I fill in my place value chart, I've got how many whole on this side? Well, I've got 1, 2 whole on this side, and then I've got 20. So I've got 2 in the tenths column, and then again 2 in the hundredths column. While over here, I've got £1, £2, so 2 in the ones column, and then I've got 10 and 5 and 1, so I've got 10, that's 1 in the tenths column, and then 6 in the hundredths column. Okay, so I've filled in my place value chart to help me work out which one has more in it than the other. So I see here they both got 2 in the whole, in the ones column rather, so that one doesn't help me. But this one here has 2 tenths, while this one only has 1 tenth. So I know that this one is bigger than this one. Okay, so I've filled in my place value chart to help me, and I can see which column has more in it. Remembering starting from the ones column and working backwards. Okay, so then if I have an amount of money that's shown here, so 2 classes save their pennies for a year. Class A saves 3,589 pennies, and Class B saves 3,859 pennies. Which class saves the most? Just have a think now. Where would you start? Which side are you going to start on with the 3,000, or are you going to start with the 9? Which side would you start with? Okay, you might be able to use this sentence to help you figure out which side you might want to start with. Now, I know that this doesn't have the whole pounds on here, but it's still going to be the same, isn't it? Because no matter what, we want to start with the biggest place value position. So this one's the thousands rather. So we're going to start here. Okay, so we start with the place value column furthest to the left, and if they are the same, then you move to the next place value column. So these are both 3, so we know they're the same, but B has 8 in the hundreds column, so I know that B has saved more money. Okay, So again, I can use my place value chart, or I can remember without having to use my place value chart. I know my positions, so I know which columns to look in first. Okay, so you can see here I've got my place value positions, so I knew which one was going to be more, which is B. Okay. All right. It's really important to remember when you're doing this, it's really important to know that if you're comparing amounts of money, you do need to do it in the same format. It can be really difficult otherwise, and you can make silly mistakes. Okay, so if you've got a question like this, Jessica has 6,244p, Matthew has £62.13, who has more? The first thing you need to do is decide either are you going to convert to pounds or to pence. Okay, so here we've put we've decided that we're going to convert to pounds. So 6,244p is how many pounds? Well, I know I'm going to move that to, I'm going to divide that by 100, which means I'm going to move it to the right 2 decimal places. Now that I have converted that into pounds, I can see very clearly that this one is bigger because the tenths column is more than this tenths column. Okay, so once I've converted, I can work out the answer quite easily. When you're doing your Do It Today, do make sure that you make the amounts of money into the same either pounds or pence, and then you need to draw the symbols in the circle. So you can see that we've actually got lots of questions there, there's 3 there, and there's 3 here. Okay, and then you'll twist it again. You're looking at Teddy, Dora, and Jack and what they have said, and you need to decide if Dora is correct. Once you've decided, just circle correct or incorrect and then explain your answer. Again, for today, I've put another extension up. So once you've done your twist it, there's a solve it and an extension. Good luck, and I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow.